If you know anything about Bay Area's real estate landscape, you know two things are always true. Home prices are high and inventory is low, but the reality is about to be challenged. Traditionally, it's been incredibly difficult and costly to build in the most desirable core locations. Most Silicon Valley cities have used strict local ordinance to keep new developments small and restricted, but the fortress has finally been breached. Palo Alto, historically one of the most restrictive cities in the country, has just lost its zoning war. Today, builders are moving in with proposals for height and densities we have not seen in decades. So, how did all this happen? Is it just a one-off fluke for Palo Alto, or are we witnessing the start of a massive urbanization trend that will force every other restrictive cities to follow suit? In other words, is the Bay Area as we know it changing forever? I'm Boji He, and today we're diving into the state mandates, the legal loopholes, and the future of your neighborhood. Now, let's get into it. So look, for decades, Bay Area's core cities like Palo Alto, Los Altos, and others have very restrictive building ordinance. If you want to build anything denser and taller than a redwood tree, it was impossible, no matter how much money you have. I mean, just ask Mark Zuckerberg or Larry Page. They've all tried and failed. That's why it's been extremely difficult to find any newer development projects with higher densities in these areas for decades. However, everything changed just now, and let me explain what's going on. You see, California state government is committed to do something about the statewide housing shortage. Therefore, the state government is giving every city in California a state mandate of how much new houses they must build by 2031. And for Palo Alto, that is 6,086 new homes. And Palo Alto is currently way behind the number. They have permitted only 500 homes so far, and that's due to, as you guessed, their current restrictive process. And because of that, it triggers something nuclear called the builder's remedy. You can call it a legal loophole or whatever. But basically, what it's saying is that if a city fails to meet the state mandate on building new homes, specifically fails to get its housing plan or housing elements verified, certified by the state, the city loses its right to enforce its own zoning. This means builders in Palo Alto can now make development proposals of any height and any density as long as it keeps certain percentage of units for lower income that cities cannot say no. That's why right now at least 10 developers instantly files applications to build whatever they want. And Palo Alto didn't just fight them. They basically fold. For example, I mean, take a look at the fish market site. Once an iconic seafood restaurant in Palo Alto for 47 years is now closed, and the site will be redeveloped into higher density housing. And the city this time is creating a new zoning category to match the developer's 7-story proposal. Why? Because fighting a builder's remedy lawsuit in 2026 is a losing battle that could cost millions. Or just go with the proposal. And besides the builder's remedy, the state government has also rolled back CEQA, California Environment Control Act, which was one of the biggest roadblock of any new development project in the state of California. I have separate videos on that, and you should definitely check it out. But on top of that, the passing of SB 79 starting July 2026, this state mandate upzoning around every Caltrain stations in the state, regardless of what the current neighborhood looks like. If it's near transit, the density is now a legal right. So these series of actions indicates the state government's approach in dealing with housing shortage. And you think that this is just going to be a long-term conflict between the state law and the local NIMBY movement, and nothing gets done in the meantime, right? Well, ironically, even the local NIMBY wall is showing sign of crumbling right now. I mean, look at the Town and Country Village. This is a iconic 1950s style shopping center. And in 2022, the owner, Ellis Partners, hired lawyers to fight a tiny 10 condo project next door, saying that it would destroy the character of the area. But fast forward to February 2026, not only did they lose that fight, but Altos Partners are now proposing a 200 apartments of their own on the same block. They're even buying the condo project they used to hate. So when the biggest NIMBY and protectors of the old Palo Alto starting to build high-density towers, you know the game has changed, right? They're realizing that the future isn't in resisting density, but it's in owning it. So it's what's happening in Palo Alto would only stay in Palo Alto. Well, let's take a look. The next door neighbor, Menlo Park, is currently staring down the Willow Village and the 80 Willow Row project. We're talking about proposals that reach up to 458 feet. That's a skyscraper in a city that used to pride themselves on being a quiet village. Like Palo Alto, Menlo Park has struggled with its own housing element, and developers are using the same builder remedy, loopholes, to force heights that were unthinkable 5 years ago. Meanwhile, in Los Altos Hill, there is the Twin Oaks project, a multifamily development that the town spent a fortune in legal fees trying to block but failed eventually. The state is now forcing Los Altos, one of the wealthiest, lowest density towns in America, to zone for thousands of units, including sites near the Foothill College and along San Antonio Road. Similar new developments are coming up all over the Bay Area and East Bay. A lot of these new developments are bypassing local city ordinance with builders' remedy as leverage. Because with the way it works, most Bay Area's core cities are behind the state mandate of home building. As I already said, Palo Alto has to build 6,086 homes by 2031, but right now they've only permitted 500, and that is 8% success rate with only 5 years left on the clock. Other cities aren't doing much better. Mountain View, Los Altos, San Mateo, Millbrae are all falling behind as much as Palo Alto. Woodside and Atherton are simply out of compliance with state law right now. So as you can imagine, in order to meet the goal, many cities will have to think outside the box from now on, which means every single parking lot, old grocery stores, and aging office park on the peninsula can be a target. Here are some of the new housing developments as we speak right now. These are all high density projects in the city that have fought densities for decades. A lot of these are all rentals, and many, like the office tower conversion in San Mateo, are only possible because of new state laws. But specifically, look at the last one, the Baylands in Palo Alto. This site is in a flood zone. So when you start building townhomes in a flood zone next to nature preserve, you know the desperation has set in. This isn't about thoughtful growth anymore. It's about cities meeting state mandates just to avoid total loss of their power. So, looks like the trend is inevitable. Many Bay Area's traditional suburbs are likely to be transformed into much higher density urban villages. It is a process I call Manhattanization in my other video. So, when that happens, what does that mean for your property value? Well, if you are a homeowner, the feel of your neighborhood is changing. If you live in one of these core locations near El Camino or Caltrain, your quiet street might soon be in the shadow of a 7-story building. But here's the silver lining. Your land is becoming exponentially more valuable to developer. And for investors and buyers, notice a trend. Almost all of these new projects, from Molly Stone's tower to fish market sites, are rentals. We're seeing a permanently renting class being built into the Silicon Valley's landscape. Ownership opportunities like the Baylands townhomes are becoming the exception, but not the rules. This supply of rentals might slow down the astronomical growth of rent prices, but it won't crash the market for single-family homes. In fact, as the peninsula becomes more urban, a detached house with a backyard will become ultimately a luxury asset, even rarer than it is today. Palo Alto didn't lose a war, they just finally accept the reality of 2026. The housing shortage is too big, and the state mandate is too powerful to ignore. With Palo Alto giving in, it potentially signals the beginning of a gradual transformation of the peninsula, East Bay, and South Bay into denser, taller, and more transit-oriented environment. If you are a homeowner, home buyer, or investors in the Bay Area, you need to navigate this with data, not emotions. The old rules of real estate here are being rewritten in real time. I'm Boji He, your local Bay Area real estate expert. We track these developments day to day because in this market, being ready means seeing the changes before it hits your street. If you want to understand how these new zoning laws affect your specific neighborhood, reach out and subscribe for more weekly deep dives into rules that are shaping where we live. All right, that's it for this time. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.